Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of GLP's 10 out of 10. And today we have with us lighting designer Rick Fisher. Difficult to know where to begin with this one. There's a lot to say. So now, a long-term UK resident, Rick was born and grew up in Philadelphia and attended Dickinson College in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, graduating with a BA in theatre studies. After a brief spell of acting, Rick dived into every role that existed backstage, learning them all before settling into the lighting department and heading down the road of designer. Since then, Rick's career has seen him light shows across the world. In the discipline of ballet, he's worked with the likes of Matthew Bourne, lighting the spectacular productions of Swan Lake and Cinderella. In the world of opera, he's lit Madame Butterfly, La Traviata, Don Carlos, Turandot, and many more besides for companies at LA Opera, the Bolshoi, the Royal Opera House in Muscat, and the Royal Opera House in London, and a staggering 22 seasons at the Santa Fe Opera in New Mexico. Rick is perhaps best known for his work in theatre, though, and has lit an incredibly long list of shows from Sunny Afternoon, Chariots of Fire, Jerry Springer the Opera, Blue Orange, Love and Understanding, and Inspector Calls, Disney's The Hunchback of Notre Dame, and the global phenomenon, Billy Elliot The Musical. Now, you may think that Rick would be satisfied with a career of that level of success, but Rick has actually spent just as much time supporting the role of the lighting design team and working to increase awareness and support for all of his colleagues. Along with the late Tony Gatelier, Rick founded the industry charity Light Relief, which has now progressed and transformed into Backup. Rick was also a key proponent in the establishment of the Night of Illumination Awards that celebrates and awards the craft of lighting design across all disciplines. Rick served for more than 15 years as the chairman of the Association of Lighting Designers, and whilst he's passed the baton along, he is now a fellow of the association. Throughout his career, Rick has been awarded on many occasions, and his mantelpiece is home to 2 Tony Awards, 2 Olivier Awards, a gold medal and a gold Triga from the Prague Quadrennial, 2 Drama Desk Awards, a Helpman Award, an Ovation Award, a Garland Award, and the Enrico Caironi Lifetime Recognition Award from the 2017 Night of Illumination ceremony. Welcome, Rick Fisher.
Thank you. I think I'm blushing, but thanks very, very much.
So winding back to the beginning, what was your first show as a lighting designer?
Well, I originally thought I wanted to be a stage manager. I took jobs as stage managers in little art centers, and my job, I was really the only technical person there. So what happened is that sometimes the little shows that were coming through and being created in our theater spaces didn't have a lighting person. So they would sit me down and talk to me about what they needed for lights. And I would take our 20 to 30 busted up, old, broken down lighting fixtures and rig them and do them all myself. So I started lighting shows that way, often not getting credited. But I met a lot of people by doing that. And eventually some of those people I met, one of them asked if I would like to collaborate with them on a tiny little performance piece in a room that probably it could squeeze 60 people into, with a ceiling height that was probably less than 9 foot tall. And it was a little piece about the author's response to the Virginia Woolf's book, A Room of One's Own. And the piece was called Room. And this was at the Oval House upstairs. And I lit it with, again, fixtures that I wouldn't wish upon anybody. But still, it was a nice little show. So that was my first big hit.
Incredible, incredible. Obviously, since that time, you've worked around the world. You've lit, hundreds of shows. And our next question is just to see about if there was a couple of times where things didn't quite go according to plan. I'm sure, obviously, an illustrious career that may never have happened to you, but
oh, I wish. I've had shows that have started. I mean, I did a production of the Scottish play in Edinburgh. And if that was not tempting fate enough, we had done really beautiful productions. There's a piece of work I'm actually very proud of. And, light was quite sculptural in it. It was one of my first proscenium arch designs. We'd done a lot of great work on it, gone through a few previews, was all excited to go to the first night. And the curtain goes up on a dark and stormy Heath-like scene. And perhaps I alone noticed that when the curtain went up, the 2K flood work light had been left on. And the dark and stormy scene was lit by the workers.
Right. Not quite dark and stormy then.
Not quite what any of us had designed. And I'm sitting there trapped in the stalls or in the circle, thinking, does anybody else notice?
Right.
Q2 happened, Q3 happened, and all of a sudden, switch.
Right.
The work light goes out.
Somebody realized. So what would you say is the best piece of advice that anyone's ever given you, either professionally or otherwise?
Good question. And I think it's treat your colleagues well, treat your staff well. Don't be afraid to explain what you are doing and why you're doing it, and then solicit advice if the way you're proposing to solve a problem is the best way.
Okay.
I think by empowering your team, and I mean that particularly for people who might be perceived as being underneath you, as a designer, it could be your crew, your production electrician, your programmer, who are all, hugely skilled people. By enlisting their support and their creativity, as opposed to turning your programmer into a data entry operator by telling them how to program the desk or, detailing everything, I think you get a better result and more people involved in the show. And the best collaborations I have with directors and designers is when the best idea wins.
Right.
So it doesn't have to be your idea. It can just be the best idea. And by keeping an open, creative working relationship, you're going to have a much better time.
There we go. Great advice. Great advice indeed.
I hope so. Thank you. I hope I can remember to take it most of the time too.
Right. That's the other thing. Okay. Obviously, you've achieved a massive amount, been awarded many times, but obviously done a huge amount of work and everything. Professionally, what would you say is your proudest achievement so far?
I've been really lucky with some of the shows that have had a long life, that I'm actually really proud of the work on them. I mean, Inspector Calls, bless its cotton socks, as we say in the UK, has been performing off and on for over 25 years.
Wow.
We have outlived some of the lighting equipment that was originally specified for the show. So we've had to replace some of the lighting equipment with new stuff. Originally, it was a show that had no digital technology on it, no moving lights. Sorry, blatant plug. The Inspector Calls now has some GLP equipment on it because the lights that they are replacing are no longer made or are no longer serviceable to tour with.
Yeah.
So we've been able to use some modern technology to try and look like the old technology. Because I didn't really need to change the look. I just needed stuff that somebody was willing to tour.
Right. Something that you could get your hands on. So when you're not obviously in a darkened theater somewhere, what do you normally try and do in your downtime?
I'm incredibly lazy. I have to admit it. One of my friends says, Rick, you're either full on or full off.
Okay.
And I think that sadly is true. I've been surprisingly lazy during this last year. I enjoy going to see shows when I can. I enjoy meeting up with friends and colleagues, of course. But I have to admit to being pretty damn lazy.
Obviously, you've worked at lots of places around the world with different companies and different productions. Would you say that you've got a particular, a best venue, a favorite venue that you enjoy working in?
To slightly correct your introduction, I've not done 22 seasons at Santa Fe Opera, but I've done about 25 productions over about 14 seasons there. And there's something about that beautiful semi-outdoor theater that I love being there. And it's a combination of the work, the people, and the location. So I guess I'd have to call that certainly one of my favorites. It's like asking, who's your favorite child?
There we go. Big shout out for Santa Fe Opera. There we are.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, there's been various different stages of lockdown and quarantine and all the rest of it over the past however many months we're into now. Musically, if you were only able to have one album or one artist that you could keep with you for an extended period of time, Who would that be?
I will slightly cheat on that and say that somehow my partner has found like our show music mix that seems to be different when you turn it on at different times. I don't know whether it's on Spotify or what it's on, or Apple Music or something. And it just is random music from musicals.
Okay.
And I must admit, I have found that we often just put it on when we're doing really boring stuff like house cleaning and stuff like that. And it's great to hear these random songs from wonderful shows, some of which some of the shows I don't care for that much. But what you get are these little mini stories talking to you.
Right.
And that, I think, really has been very rewarding to hear that during lockdown and brought back many happy memories.
Right. There we go. Perfect. Show tunes playlist.
Show tune.
There we go. Absolutely awesome. That's a great answer. That really is.
Good. Thank you.
Now, if you could wind back and go and visit the teenage Rick and offer one piece of advice, what would that be?
I think it's not be a bullshitter.
Okay.
I think it's very easy as we work our way into the industry to get given opportunities that sometimes we're out of our depth. And anybody should take them when they're offered that, whether it's, stepping up to a role that you haven't done, or, being, for me, it was being left with the responsibility of designing lights for show. And I didn't really know what I was doing. But I think by admitting what you don't know, by not being afraid to ask a stupid question or make yourself look like you don't know what you're doing, then people will help you. If you bullshit them and like pretend like you know what you're doing in an effort to save your self-esteem, and then you fall down, people will enjoy you falling down, sadly.
Right.
Like the time I wired in the 3-phase main supply and told them I didn't know what I was doing and blew the box off the wall because I literally did not know what I was doing. At least I had said I didn't know what I was doing, so they said, have a go. So I felt somewhat justified at having blown the box off the wall. But everybody, I think, everybody wants you to succeed. The only person you don't really want to succeed is the bullshit artist.
Right. Now, if you were able to sit down for a cup of coffee with any one person at all, either living or past, who would that be?
That was a really interesting question. It's given me a lot of pause for thought. And I think I've come up with someone I'd really like to meet, and that's Ben Franklin.
Okay. Yeah.
Ben Franklin and I share some things together. Ben, while not from Philadelphia, spent a lot of his later career in Philadelphia. So we've always been very aware of him as a noted Philadelphian.
Yes.
He was a real polymath. He was an inventor, a printer, a politician, an ambassador. He was very intrigued by electricity. And I think somebody with that sort of enlightenment mind, I think would be really fascinating to get to know.
Yes.
So I think that's who I'd plumb to meet. I mean, There are lots of people I'd like to meet, but I think Ben Franklin really intrigues me.
Yeah, certainly.
He also spent a good bit of time in London too, so we have that in common. So I think a remarkable man. I think it would have been fascinating to sort of see how his mind ticked.
Yes. Yeah. Well, there we go. Ben Franklin. What a fascinating conversation that'll be. There we go. We've made it to our final question already, and the final question is, I guess it'll be Team USA. But when we finish the interview, Team USA are going to call. And you're going to get called up for the Olympics. Now, it could be for the Summer Games or it could be for the Winter Games. But the question is, what sport are they going to be calling you up for?
The one sport I remember thinking, gosh, I shouldn't be last for this sport because I don't suck at this, was volleyball.
Okay.
So I think maybe I'd hope to be called up for volleyball.
Right.
And actually, one of the great pleasures I can remember of the London Olympics was getting a ticket to watch beach volleyball at that well-known beach that they created behind Horse Guards in London on the Mall. Yes. And going and watching Brazil play in beach volleyball with my Brazilian partner. And now here I am talking to you from Brazil.
Right.
Yes, volleyball I got to go for volleyball.
There we go. Volleyball it is. Beach volleyball.
Chances are pretty slim, shall we say.
Well, beach volleyball, that could be an exciting game to watch.
Yeah,
it really is. Well, there we go. Fantastic. Rick, this has been absolutely fascinating. Thank you so much for finding some time for us. Thanks for all of the insights and all of the wisdom. And of course, we look forward to meeting up again in person as soon as the opportunity arrives. So
I know I miss that in-person meeting a lot.
Continued, obviously, good health, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. And once again, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, take care.